funny because I was so emotional that day, which wasn't out of the ordinary at this point, but I was crying so much and people were saying, oh, poor Lauren doesn't want to leave high school. And it's like, I cannot wait to leave high school. It's just that I had just received this diagnosis. So I said, well, again, it's not something that I can't control. So at least it wasn't, it wasn't a cancer diagnosis. So I first started on Copaxone, which is a daily injection that I took once every day. And I took that for a year. And after the year was over, I took an MRI and there was progression. So I switched to beta-seron, which I took for 4 years. And that was during college, which was not very fun. Even though I made the best of it, and I tried to make as many jokes as I could. When I would get blood on my clothes before going out or before leaving my apartment, I would get really upset. But I just tried to make the best of it, and I had a really great college experience. So I definitely did not let MS get the best of me. But after I graduated college, I started getting some jobs so I could pay back my student loans. And I first started with a part-time job because I wasn't ready to get a full-time job. And I worked at Ford Field in the suites, which is where the Lions play. And it was a really fun job to have, but I did not tell my employer that I had MS because I wasn't ready to tell them. Plus, I did not want to be discriminated against. So I didn't tell them I had MS, but if you've ever been to Ford Field, then you know that it's a huge venue. And I literally walked miles around the stadium. And the day after a football game, I couldn't walk. I couldn't fall asleep at night, my legs hurt so bad. And then in the morning, I couldn't walk. It would take a long time for me to be able to walk. But I tried to turn that negative situation into a positive situation by saying that I met some really great people at that job. I had a lot of fun. I got to see professional football games for free. And luckily for me, the Detroit Lions did not make the playoffs. So I was done in December. I did not have to continue through January. And I tried to make the best of it. And then my second part-time job, I got working at Radio Disney, which I originally thought was going to be at a radio station. And I got really excited because I actually have a background in television. I've been on TV since I was 10 years old. And so I thought, oh, working in radio, well, it's in the media, that should be fun. But it wasn't at a radio station. Radio Disney is a nationally syndicated show, which is recorded in Texas. So instead of working at a radio station, I just would go to different events and hand out Radio Disney materials to children and their parents. And I also didn't tell them that I had MS because I wasn't ready to do that yet. I didn't want to be discriminated against, and so I decided not to say anything. But believe it or not, they wouldn't let us sit down. So I would be on my feet for sometimes 6 hours at a time. So I would pretend that I had to go to the bathroom like every 45 minutes. And I would go in the bathroom and I would just sit there and I would rub my legs. And I would say, dear God, please help me get through today because this is really hard. But I tried to turn that negative experience into a positive experience by saying that I met some really great people again, and I had a lot of fun dancing and singing with the kids, and it was a good experience, but definitely not one that I would like to continue. And then I got my first full-time job, and I also did not tell them that I had MS. And when I look back, in retrospect, I think that I should have told them, but I didn't. But it was a sales job, which I had never had a sales job before, and my job was selling urinal mats. Yes, I'm not kidding. Mats that go in public restrooms and in men's restrooms, which I don't normally go into. I would have to go in and take out the dirty urinal mats that sit right in front of the urinal. I'd have to take those out and replace it with a clean urinal mat. I also sold toilet paper, air fresheners, which were definitely needed, and it was not a fun job for me. And you know, with my background in television, I did an internship at Good Morning America in New York City, and I'm in these bathrooms taking out dirty urinal mats, and I'm like, okay, I just recently worked at the same place as Diane Sawyer, and now I'm getting dirty urinal mats. Like, this is not, something's not adding up. This isn't right for me. So I try to turn that negative into a positive by saying that, you know, it was a family-owned business, and the people that I worked for were so wonderful, and I really felt like I was a part of their family. But now I get to tell people that I sold urinal mats, and I usually get a pretty good laugh. But in all seriousness, though, this was very, very stressful for me. And it not only was I selling urinal mats, but I was driving a far way. I worked in Wixom, but I live in St. Clair Shores, so that was a really far drive for me. And it got to the point where my hands started trembling, and it was really noticeable. And then my head was shaking. And this had never happened to me in 8 years. And I told my parents, I said, there's something wrong here. I'm not used to this. I think it's the stress from my job. I think I need to get a new job. But I didn't switch jobs in time because I ended up getting in a rollover car accident on I-96. Thank God I'm here today, and thank God nobody else was injured. But little did I know, I was going through my very first exacerbation. It was my first relapse, and I didn't know it because I had never been through one before. So from now on, I decided that when I get a job, I'm going to tell my employer right from the very beginning that I have MS, because I think that part of my problem was I felt like I was living a lie. By not telling them that I had MS, I felt like I was lying to them, even though I wasn't technically lying. But I said, that's it, I'm not going to go through that anymore. And now my current employer, I'm a hostess at a restaurant, and they know I have MS, and they let me sit down whenever my legs are tired, and it's working out really well. So I'm so glad I told them I had MS during my interview. That was the best thing I ever did. But I wanted to talk about my first relapse because that leads into Tysabri, which is the reason why I'm here, and I'm so excited about it. My first relapse, if you've ever had a relapse, then maybe you can relate to this, but I had never had this happen to me before. Like I said, my hands were trembling, and my neck was shaking, or my head was shaking, and after the car accident, it really triggered a full-blown relapse, and I couldn't walk. I had double vision, so I couldn't read, I couldn't really see, I couldn't write, my handwriting was so shaky, and I really couldn't do anything, and it was terrifying. It was really scary, but actually this was the most negative thing that had ever happened to me, and it turned into the most positive thing that has ever happened. With my background in television, I decided to record my relapse so that other people can see what a relapse is really like, because I didn't know what to expect. So I recorded my relapse, and I put these videos on YouTube, which is a website that anybody can go to. It's YouTube, Y-O-U-T-U-B-E, YouTube.com. And I'm really excited because there are a couple of people here who recognize me from YouTube, and I got so excited. But I have met people that have MS. I've met people from all over the world. So it is the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. And the relapse was the most negative thing that has ever happened to me. And these YouTube videos were the most positive things that I've ever done in my life. But my doctor told me, Lauren, I really think you should try Tysabri. You need to switch medications, and I've heard some really good things about Tysabri.